Hello everyone, this is chapter 3, protecting your data and privacy. This chapter focuses on your personal devices and your personal data. It includes tips for protecting your devices, creating strong passwords, and safely using wireless networks. It also discusses maintaining your data securely. Your online data is worth something to cyber criminals. This chapter briefly covers authentication techniques to help you maintain your data securely. It also covers ways to enhance the security of your online data with tips about what to do and what not to do online. So, protect your computing device. Your computing devices store your data and are the portal to your online life. Below is a short list of steps, or you will see that on the screen, that you can take to protect your computing devices from intrusion. First, keep the firewall on. Whether it is a software firewall or a hardware firewall on a router, the firewall should be turned on and updated to prevent hackers from accessing your personal or company data. To be accurate, it will protect you from most attacks. Then you can enable that in Windows. You turn on the firewall. By default, it's turned on. And also for Mac OS X devices, you can turn the firewall on. Also, we will use antivirus and anti-spyware. Malicious software such as viruses, Trojan horses, worms, ransomware, and spyware are installed on your computing devices without your permission in order to gain access to your computer and your data. Viruses can destroy your data, slow down your computer, or take over your computer. One way viruses can take over your computer is by allowing spammers to broadcast emails using your account. Spyware can monitor your online activities, collect your personal information, or produce unwanted pop-up ads on your web browser while you are online. A good rule is to only download software from trusted websites to avoid getting spyware in the first place. Antivirus software is designed to scan your computer and incoming email for viruses and delete them. Sometimes antivirus software also includes anti-spyware. Keep your software up to date to protect your computer from the newest malicious software. Third point, manage your operating system and browser. Hackers are always trying to take advantage of vulnerabilities in your operating systems and your web browsers. To protect your computer and your data, set the security settings on your computer and browser at medium or higher. Update your computer's operating system, including your web browsers, and regularly download and install the latest software patches and security updates from the vendors. Also, protect all your devices. Your computing devices, whether they are PCs, laptops, tablets, or smartphones, all of these devices should be password protected to prevent unauthorized access. The stored information should be encrypted, especially for sensitive or confidential data. For mobile devices, only store necessary information in case these devices are stolen or lost when you are away from your home. If any one of your devices is compromised, the criminals may have access to all your data through your cloud storage service provider, such as iCloud or Google Drive. IoT devices or Internet of Things devices pose an even greater risk than your other computing devices. While desktop laptop and mobile platforms receive frequent software updates, most of the IoT devices still have their original firmware. If vulnerabilities are found in the firmware, the IoT device is likely to stay vulnerable. To make the problem worse, IoT devices are often designed to call home and require internet access. To reach the internet, most IoT devices manufacturers rely on the customer's local network. The result is that IoT devices are very likely to be compromised, and when they allow access to the customer's local network and data. The best way to protect yourself from this scenario is to have IoT devices using an isolated network, sharing it only with other IoT devices. Use wireless networks safely. Wireless networks allow Wi-Fi enabled devices such as laptops and tablets to connect to the network by way of the network identifier known as the service set identifier SSID or SSID to prevent intruders from entering your home wireless network. The preset SSID and default password for the browser-based administrative interface should be changed. Hackers will be aware of this kind of default access information. Optionally, the wireless router can also be configured to not broadcast the SSID, which adds an additional barrier to discovering the network. However, this should not be considered adequate security for a wireless network. Furthermore, you should encrypt wireless communication by enabling wireless security and the WPA2 encryption features on the wireless router. Even with WPA2 encryption enabled, the wireless network can still be vulnerable. In October 2017, a security flaw in the WPA2 protocol was discovered. This flaw allows an intruder to break the encryption between the wireless router and the wireless client and allow the intruder to access and manipulate the network traffic. This vulnerability can be exploited using key reinstallation attacks or crack. It affects all modern protected Wi-Fi networks. To mitigate an attacker, a user should update all affected products, wireless routers, and any wireless capable devices such as laptops and mobile devices as soon as security updates become available. For laptops or other devices with wired NIC or network interface cards, a wired connection could mitigate this vulnerability. Furthermore, you can also use a trusted VPN service to prevent the unauthorized access to your data while you are using the wireless network. When you are away from home, a public Wi-Fi hotspot allows you to access your online information and surf the internet. However, it is best to not access or send any sensitive personal information over a public wireless network. Verify whether your computer is configured with file and media sharing and that it requires user authentication with encryption to prevent someone from intercepting your information, known as eavesdropping, while using a public wireless networks. Use encrypted VPN tunnels and services. The VPN service provides you secure access to the internet with an encrypted connection between your computer and the VPN service. Providers VPN server with an encrypted VPN tunnel, even if a data transmission is intercepted, it is not decipherable. So many mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets come with the Bluetooth wireless protocol. This capability allows Bluetooth-enabled devices to connect to each other and share information. Unfortunately, Bluetooth can be exploited by hackers to eavesdrop on some devices, establish remote access controls, distribute malware, and drain batteries. To avoid these issues, keep Bluetooth turned off when you are not using it. Public Wi-Fi access. Many Wi-Fi users choose to use public networks instead of their devices' data plans for accessing the internet remotely, but the convenience of public Wi-Fi can be risky. If you are not careful, hackers may quickly access your connection and compromise sensitive information stored on your device and in online accounts, everything. Here are some steps you can take to minimize the risk. Check the validity of available Wi-Fi hotspots. If more than one hotspot appears claiming to belong to an establishment that you are in, check with the staff to avoid connecting to an imposter hotspot. Make sure all websites you exchange information with have HTTPS, which is secure HTTP, at the beginning of the web address. If so, your transmitted data will be encrypted. Install an app add-on that forces your web browser to use encryption when connecting to website or different websites, even well-known sites that may not normally encrypt their communication. Adjust your smartphone settings so it does not automatically connect to nearby Wi-Fi networks. This gives you more control over where and when you connect. If you use public Wi-Fi hotspots on a regular basis, consider using a virtual private network, which will encrypt all transmissions between your device and the internet. Many companies offer VPNs to their employees for work purposes, and individuals may subscribe to VPNs on their own. When transmitting sensitive information, using your cell phone data plan instead of Wi-Fi may be more secure. Bluetooth security. Bluetooth connections to your mobile devices can be used to connect to wireless headsets, transfer files, and enable hands-free calling while you drive, among other things. Most of the time, a user must allow a Bluetooth connection to occur before data is shared, a process called pairing, which provides a measure of data security. But just like Wi-Fi connections, Bluetooth can put your personal data at risk if you are not careful. Here are some steps you may wish to take when using Bluetooth. Turn Bluetooth off when not in use. Keeping it active enables hackers to discover what other devices you connected to before. Spoof one of those devices and gain access to your device. If you connect your mobile phone to a rental car, the phone's data may get shared with the car. Be sure to unpair your phone from the car and clear any personal data from the car before you return it. Take the same steps when selling a car that has Bluetooth. Use Bluetooth in hidden mode rather than discoverable mode. This prevents other unknown devices from finding your Bluetooth connection. Here we discuss home wireless networks and its security. So the home wireless networks enable computers and mobile devices to share one broadband connection to the internet without having to set up minutes on cellular data plans. But like all other wireless network technologies, home wireless network present vulnerabilities that could be exploited by hackers. To help protect your home wireless network from unwanted users, consider the following steps. Turn on encryption. Wireless routers often come out of the box with the encryption feature disabled, so be sure it is enabled soon after the router is installed. Change the network's default network name, also known as its service set identifier or SSID or SSID. When a computer with a wireless connection searches for and displays the wireless networks nearby, it lists each network that publicly broadcasts its SSID. Manufacturers usually give all of their wireless routers a default SSID, which is often the company's name. For additional security, choose a unique and hard-to-guess name as your SSID. Change the network's default password. Most wireless routers come with preset passwords for administrating a device's setting. This is different from the password used to access the wireless network itself. Unauthorized users may be familiar with the default passwords, so it is important to change the router device's password as soon as it is installed. Longer passwords made up of a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols are more secure. Consider using the media access control or MAC address filter in your wireless router. Every device that can connect to a Wi-Fi network has a unique ID called the physical address or MAC address. Wireless routers can screen the MAC addresses of all devices that connect to them, and users can set their wireless network to accept the connections only from devices with MAC addresses that the router will recognize. To create another obstacle to unauthorized access, consider activating your wireless router's MAC address filter to include your devices only. Turn off your wireless router when it will not be in use for any extended period of time. Use antivirus and anti-spyware software on your computer, and use similar apps on your devices that access your wireless network. Passwords. In this topic, we will discuss different types of passwords and dealing with passwords, some tips and tricks. So remembering all of your assorted passwords can be a pain. Web browsers and other programs may offer to remember passwords for you, which can be a significant time saver. However, certain password shortcuts can leave you less secure. The following best practices may help keep your personal information safer. Do not use the same password for multiple accounts, especially for the most sensitive ones, such as bank accounts, credit cards, legal or tax records, and files containing medical information. Otherwise, someone with access to one of your accounts may end up with access to many others. Do not have your web browser remember passwords and add them for you, particularly for your most important financial, legal, and medical accounts. If an unauthorized person gains access to your computer or smartphone, they could access any account that your browser automatically logs into. Don't use passwords that can be easily guessed, such as common words and birthdays of family members. Instead, use a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. The longer and stronger the password, the safer your information. Use unique passwords for each online account. You probably have more than one online account, and each account should have a unique password. That is a lot of passwords to remember. However, the consequences of not using strong and unique passwords leaves you and your data vulnerable to cyber criminals. Using the same password for all your online accounts is like using the same key for all your locked doors. If an attacker was to get your key, he would have the ability to access everything you own. If criminals get your password through phishing, for example, they will try to get into your other online accounts. If you only use one password for all accounts, they can get into all your accounts, steal or erase all your data, or decide to impersonate you. We use so many online accounts that need passwords that it becomes too much to remember. One solution to avoid reusing passwords or using weak password is to use a password manager. A password manager stores and encrypts all of your different and complex passwords. The manager, it's a software after all, can then help you to log into your online accounts automatically. You only need to remember your master password to access the password manager and manage all of your accounts and passwords. Tips for choosing a good password in general: do not use dictionary words or names in any languages. Do not use common misspelling of dictionary words. Do not use computer names or account names. If possible, use special characters such as @ $, hashtag, hash, percentage, ampersand, parentheses, and so forth. Use a password with 10 or more characters. We used to say 8. Now it's better to use 10 or more. To prevent unauthorized physical access to your computing devices, use passphrases rather than passwords. It is easier to create a long passphrase than a password because it is generally in the form of a sentence rather than a word. The longer length makes passphrases less vulnerable to dictionary or brute force attacks. Furthermore, a passphrase may be easier to remember, especially if you are required to change your password frequently. Here are some tips in choosing good passwords or passphrases. Tips in choosing a good passphrase. Choose a meaningful statement to you. Add special characters, as we mentioned before, such as exclamation mark, question mark, at, $sign, etc. The longer the better. Avoid common or famous statements, for example, lyrics from a popular song. Recently, United States National Institute for Standards and Technology, NIST, published improved password requirements. NIST standards are intended for government application, but can also serve as a standard for others as well. The new guidelines aim to provide better user experience and to put the burden of user verification on the providers. Summary of the new guidelines: 8 characters minimum in length, but no more than 64 characters. No common easily guessed passwords such as password ABC123, let me in, and so forth. No composition rules such as having to include lowercase and uppercase letters and numbers. Improve typing accuracy by allowing the user to see the password while typing. All printing characters and spaces are allowed. No password hints. No periodical or arbitrary password expiration. No knowledge-based authentication, such as information from shared secret questions, marketing data, transaction history. Even with access to your computers and network devices secured, it is also important to protect and preserve your data. So, your data should always be encrypted. You may think you have no secrets and nothing to hide, so why use encryption? Maybe you think that nobody wants your data. Most likely this is probably not true. Are you ready to show all of your photos and documents to strangers? Are you ready to share financial information stored on your computer to your friends? Do you want to give out your emails and account passwords to the general public? This can be even more troublesome if a malicious application infects your computer or mobile device and steals potentially valuable information such as account numbers and passwords and other official documents. That kind of information can lead to identity theft, fraud, or ransom. Criminals may decide to simply encrypt your data and make it unusable until you pay the ransom. What is encryption? Encryption is the process of converting the information into a form where an unauthorized party cannot read it. Only a trusted authorized person with a secret key or password can decrypt the data and access it in its original form. The encryption itself does not prevent someone from intercepting the data. Encryption can only prevent an unauthorized person from viewing or accessing the content. Software programs are used to encrypt files, folders, and even entire drives. EFS, or encrypting file system, is a Windows feature that can encrypt data for free. EFS is directly linked to a specific user account. Only the user that encrypted the data will be able to access it after it has been encrypted using EFS. To encrypt data using EFS in all Windows versions, follow these steps. 1. Select one or more files or folders. 2. Right-click the selected data properties. 3. Click Advanced. 4. Select the encrypt contents to secure data checkbox. 5. Files and folders that have been encrypted with EFS are displayed in green as shown in the figure. Backup your data. Your hard drive may fail. Your laptop could be lost. Your smartphone could be stolen. Maybe you erased the original version of an important document. Having a backup may prevent the loss of irreplaceable data such as family photos. To backup data properly, you will need an additional storage location for the data, and you must copy the data to that location regularly and automatically. The additional location for your backed up files can be on your home network, secondary location, or in the cloud. By storing the backup of the data locally, you have total control of the data. You can decide to copy all of your data to a network attached storage device, NAS, a simple external hard drive, or maybe select only a few important folders for backup on thumb drives, CDs, DVDs, or even tapes. I don't know where are these tapes, but in some old companies or organizations. In that scenario, you are the owner and you are totally responsible for the cost and maintenance of the storage device equipment. If you subscribe to a cloud storage service, device equipment, the cost depends on the amount storage space needed. With the cloud storage services like Amazon, iCloud, Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive from Microsoft, and so forth, you have access to your backup data as long as you have access to your account. When you subscribe to online storage services, you may need to be more selective about the data being backed up due to the cost of the storage and the constant online data transfers. One of the benefits of storing a backup at an alternate location is that it is safe in the event of fire, theft, or other catastrophes other than storage device failure. Deleting your data permanently. So when you move a file to the recycle bin or trash and delete it permanently, the file is only inaccessible from the operating system. Anyone with the right forensic tools can still recover the file due to a magnetic trace left on the hard drive. In order to erase data so that it is no longer recoverable, the data must be overwritten with ones and zeros multiple times to prevent the recovery of deleted files. You may need to use tools specifically designed to do just that. The program is Delete from Microsoft for Vista and higher, claims to have the ability to remove sensitive files completely. Shred for Linux and Secure Empty Trash for Mac OS X are some tools that claim to provide a similar service. The only way to be certain that data or files are not recoverable is to physically destroy the hard drive or storage device. It has been the folly of many criminals in thinking their files were impenetrable or irrecoverable, but they were wrong. Besides storing data on your local hard drives, your data may also be stored online in the cloud. Those copies will also need to be deleted. Take a moment to ask yourself, where do I save my data? Is it backed up somewhere? Is it encrypted? When you need to delete your data or get rid of a hard drive or computer, ask yourself, have I safeguarded the data to keep it from falling into the wrong hands? Popular online services such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple, and Microsoft use two-factor authentication to add an extra layer of security for account logins. Here we use what's so-called two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. Besides the username and password or personal identification number, PIN, or pattern, two-factor authentication requires a second token such as a physical object, credit card, ATM card, phone, or any physical token, biometric scan, fingerprints, palm print, as well as facial or voice recognition. Even with two-factor authentication, hackers can still gain access to your online accounts through attacks such as phishing attacks, malware, and social engineering. OAuth or OAuth 2 version 2. So open authorization is an open standard protocol that allows an end user credentials to access third-party applications without exposing the user's password. OAuth acts as middleman to decide whether to allow end users access to third-party applications. For example, say you want to access web application XYZ and you don't have a user account for accessing this web application. However, XYZ has the option to allow you to log in using the credentials from a social media website, APC, so you access the website using the social media login. For this to work, the application XYZ is registered with APC and is an approved application. When you access XYZ, use your user credentials from APC. Then XYZ requests an access token from APC on your behalf. Now you have access to XYZ. XYZ knows nothing about you and your user credentials, and this interaction is totally seamless for the user. Using secret tokens prevents a malicious application from getting your information and your data. Do not share too much on social media. If you want to keep your privacy on social media, share as little information as possible. You should not share information like your birth date, email address, or your phone number on your profile. The people who need to know your personal information probably already know it. Do not fill out your social media profile completely. Only provide the minimum required information. Furthermore, check your social media settings to allow only people you know to see your activities or engage in your conversations. The more personal information you share online, the easier it is for someone to create a profile about you and take advantage of you offline. Have you ever forgotten the username and password for an online account? Security questions like what's your mother's maiden name or in what city were you born are supposed to help keep your account safe from intruders. However, anyone who wants to access your accounts can search for the answers on the internet. You can answer these questions with false information as long as you can remember the false answers. If you have a problem remembering them, you can use password managers to manage them for you. Email and web browser privacy. Every day, millions of email messages are used to communicate with friends and conduct businesses. Email is a convenient way to communicate with each other quickly. When you send an email, it is similar to sending a message using a postcard. The postcard message is transmitted in plain sight of anyone who has access to look, and the email message is transmitted in plain text and is readable by anyone who has access. These communications are also passed among different servers while en route to the destination. Even when you erase your email messages, the messages can be archived on the mail server for some time. Anyone with physical access to your computer or your router can view which websites you have visited using web browser history, cache, and possibly log files. This problem can be minimized by enabling the in-private browsing mode on the web browser. Most of the popular web browsers have their own name for private browser mode. Microsoft Internet Explorer, they have in-private. Google Chrome, they have incognito. Mozilla Firefox, they have private tab, private window. Safari, they have private browsing. With the private mode enabled, cookies are disabled and temporary internet files and browsing history are removed after closing the window or program. Keeping your internet browsing history private may prevent others from gathering information about your online activities and enticing you to buy something with targeted ads. Even with private browsing enabled and cookies disabled, companies are developing different ways of fingerprinting users in order to gather information and track users' behavior. For example, the intermediary devices such as routers can have information about a user's web surfing history. Ultimately, it is your responsibility to safeguard your data, your identity, and your computing devices. When you send an email, should you include your medical records? The next time you browse the internet, is your transmission secure? Just a few simple precautions may save you problems later. Encrypt emails. Chapter 3 summary. This chapter focused on your personal devices, your personal data. It included tips for protecting your devices, creating strong passwords, and safely using wireless networks. It covered data backups, data storage, and deleting your data permanently. Authentication techniques were discussed also to help you maintain your data securely. It briefly covered how easy it is to share too much information on social media and how to avoid this security risk. I hope it was an informative chapter. Thank you and see you in next chapter.